The relationship between a player and a GM is fundamentally one of trust. Players don't just interact with your world randomly. Every description you give, every pause before you speak, every ruling you make, and every NPC you choose to name becomes information. Consciously or not, your players are absorbing all of this and turning this into assumptions about your world and how it works. The skilled GM understands that these expectations aren't something to be nervous about. Rather, they're a tool that, when handled well, can be used to help create an emotionally captivating story for you and the players at the table. So, without further ado, in this video, we're going to be talking about the relationship between the player and the GM, as well as how to craft meaningful subversion in your D&D game. So the first thing you need to understand is that players react to more than just your world. Subconsciously or not, they're reacting to you. They watch how you describe things, what you emphasize, what you gloss over, how you respond to their ideas. From that, they begin to form assumptions about what matters in the world, what's dangerous, and what kind of actions will be rewarded and what will be punished. Now, this is especially important because players exist in a state of partial uncertainty. They don't know fully what they can or can't do until the GM establishes the pace or tone of the game. Even without realizing it, they look to the GM's behavior for guidance on what feels allowed, encouraged, or risky. Now, I know what I'm saying might sound pretty obvious, but I think we're all familiar with the fear of trying to do something in-game and the GM looks you in the eyes and hits you with the, "Are you sure you want to do that?" That's why it's important that these assumptions line up with the reality of your world. When players act on their understanding of the world and how it works, they feel competent. They feel like their choices matter, and that's the feeling that creates investment in the game, investment in your world. So then, first thing is to create consistency, right? Indeed, because consistency is what allows meaning to exist in your world. If your world behaves consistently, players can learn its logic, and once that logic is established, deviations from it become something that creates intrigue. Now, let's say you're running your game, right? You're describing to your party their arrival in a portside town that's fairly wealthy and heavily controlled by the church. Immediately, the party's going to draw conclusions about how they should conduct themselves in this town. Maybe the cleric is more social, seeing paladins and clerics on every corner. Maybe the rogue steals less, seeing paladins and clerics on every corner. But let's say as they make it into the town proper, you describe to them that there has not been a single church-affiliated person that they've seen, and there's also a distinct lack of children, as well as many of the women having a very, very harsh cough. Despite this being a well-maintained sunny portside town, things seem like they're off, and this sort of deviation from the norm is what creates an air of mystery that your players then want to explore. This plot thread only really works, though, if your world has already been established to have been fairly grounded. So you've thrown out your line, the players have taken the bait, and they're going to explore the story beat that you presented to them. Now, there's a few ways you can subvert their expectations. The first one, the one I suggest you don't do, is that they investigate, only to find out that it was a string of coincidences and there's actually nothing weird going on in this town at all. You sure did subvert their expectations, but not in any meaningful kind of way. Which leads me to the crucial point that trust is a priceless commodity that you cannot afford to gamble with as a GM. At its core, the GM's job is to be the person that the players trust to translate the world for them. Players aren't interacting with the game directly, they're interacting with your interpretation of it. Nothing happens in the world without it passing by you first. And because of that, players are always going to be making judgments about the world and about you. Is the world fair? Does the GM follow their own logic of how the world works? If I take a risk here, is the GM going to respect that, or am I going to be punished for it? Their trust in you is what makes this game work. This is why trust encourages risk-taking. When players trust the GM, they become willing to take risks. They'll take bold choices, sometimes even to their own detriment, simply because it fits the moment. They may willingly take disadvantage on rolls, or even lean into their character flaws, or make decisions in-game that make their lives more complicated, purely because they know that you as the GM will respect these decisions, see it, and not punish them for it. You may give them a hard time in the short term, but in the long term it's going to be good for them. This is also how you as the GM open the door to deeper and more meaningful roleplay at the table. Remember when I said players are always watching the GM, their tone, and how they word things to see how they should act in any situation? This isn't just something that only the players can do. You as the GM can do this as well. How, you might ask? Observe your players. not their character, your players. And that brings us to the core of this video. The key to truly shocking subversion lies in the mind of your player, not in their character. Characters act within the fiction of the world, but expectations live in the player's head. So by observing how players talk and plan at the table, the things they hesitate to pursue and the things that they feel confident in pursuing, you can draw a clear image of how they'll respond to a situation before you even present it to them. I'll give another example of what I mean. I was running a game, and the players had a powerful NPC ally who was a high-level wizard. Long story short, all of the players, as well as the NPC allies, had ideas on how they wanted to proceed with the current situation that they were in. Naturally, duking it out was the way to go. But mostly I just wanted to play the NPC allies because they all had stat blocks and the party wasn't using them. Going into the fight, I had seen that throughout the campaign, the main way the party dealt with mages was to simply grab them and just beat them to death. Knowing this, I built the early fight around the idea that I would get grabbed. As a result, I was able to give the party not only a challenging experience unlike any other fight against a mage they had had thus far, but a meaningful one by re-establishing this wizard, Alice, as not only a powerful mage, but an intelligent battle strategist. Now, there's a second kind of subversion you can use. This is the subversion of their expectations of not the game, but your behavior. As I said before, they look to you to further understand the world their characters inhabit, and believe me, they'll soak up every tiny bit of info they can get to succeed. So how do you use this to create a better story then? Simple. Much like keeping the logic of your world consistent, you keep your behavior at the table consistent. Maybe this means that when you put them into dangerous situations, you tend to lower your voice. Perhaps you gesture often when an NPC is lying to the players. Or maybe when the players are discussing something that you know will end badly, you stay oddly silent and rarely give input. These too are trends that your players will notice and begin to train their own behaviors based on. It's in this level of awareness that you can pull massive twists on your players that leave them feeling astonished. Once, my table was on the trail of a green dragon named Astria. One of the party members, being a paladin, had sworn to her god that she would eliminate this threat, but once face to face with her, she ended up running away from this dragon and losing her powers as a paladin in the process. It was such an out-of-character move, but ended up leading to a one-on-one confrontation with Astria, culminating in the paladin getting her powers back after killing her. The out-of-character moment, of course, was a result of the player's expectations of my behavior being different from what was presented thus far. So I have a tendency to show every character as neither good nor bad, needing deeper investigation before making a call. But with Astria, she outright told the party she was evil and was going to do bad things. As a result, the players themselves didn't really know how to react. Instead of doing what their characters would do, they acted purely based on my presentation of the information, metagaming in the process. Obviously, you don't want to do this to your players all the time, but even so, it made for one of the biggest climaxes in the campaign, and the paladin's crowning achievement, leading to her becoming her god's champion. At the end of the day, subverting expectations isn't about tricking your players or feeling like you pulled off some sort of big IQ move and showed off how smart you are. It's about understanding them, how they think and what they trust, using this to make a better experience for everyone at the table. Players build their understanding of your game from two things: the world you present and the way you present it. They learn your logic and your habits. When you're consistent, they feel safe enough to take risks. When they trust you, they invest in your game. So, the next time you're GMing, try paying attention not to just the world, but to your players. Notice what they expect, what they assume is safe, and what they think they understand. Build that consistency, earn their trust, and then challenge it. Because the best twists don't just challenge your characters, but challenge the players' beliefs as well. This video is definitely different from anything that I've uploaded before. I've been playing D&D for a long time at this point. I started back in like 2015, and I played it off and on until about 2022, where I picked it up consistently and been playing since then. Going forward, I plan on uploading a lot more D&D content, and I'll be starting a new campaign next week. So I plan on doing some recaps of the sessions here as well. So stay tuned, and all in all, thank you for watching.